Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Phil Lipoff. I am from NBC 10 Boston. I anchor the evening news there, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be here today. When I was asked to do this, I immediately, as a reporter, started investigating what Northeast Arc is, and it just blew my mind. A, that I hadn't heard about it already, and B, that I wasn't involved. So I am really happy to be here with this event this morning, and it's going to do amazing things for a lot of people. You'll hear more about that and who this has been able to help over the last year or so. But first, how great is it that the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation has partnered with Northeast Arc again this year for Arc Tank 2.0, as we're calling it. I would like you please give a round of applause to our host, Stephen Rothstein, the Executive Director of the Library Foundation.
Thank you, Phil, and thank each and every one of you for being here. And first, a few other thanks. I want you to join me to thank the judges who are giving of their time. Thank them for their time and their great knowledge. For Joanne and the team at ARC, they are such a pleasure to work with, and Steve and the others for the work there. Join me to thank them for their amazing generosity and leadership. For the folks in the building, both from the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation, the John F. Kennedy Library team, Gourmet and Work Inc., who work in the building every day and do such a great job, to thank them. And to thank all of you for creating your creative ideas and for being here. Really appreciate the leadership. Thanks to each and every one of you. Today is about innovation, but just to take a second to go back, it's also to think about John Kennedy's inspiration. Next year will be the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. And that is such an area of thinking big and bold, like the submissions you're about to hear from have. And when you think about it, the work he did there is something we're benefiting today, just as what he did with people with intellectual disabilities. Again, I know this room, there are so many people who are so much more knowledgeable than I am, so I appreciate that in this field. But just to go back for a minute, for those of you who haven't been involved for as long, when John Kennedy started his administration, the work with people with intellectual disabilities was a neglected issue. That people were put away, there was very little research, very little care, very little services, parents weren't trained, and it was a forgotten issue. Because of the advocacy of Eunice Kennedy Shriver, because of the family, his sister Rosemary, John Kennedy really took this issue on. So even before he was sworn in, during the transition, he set up a task force looking at these issues. And then in 1961, he established a panel of outstanding scientists and doctors to look at the field of what was then called mental retardation. And this panel put together a series of 100 recommendations. And in there, they encouraged the president to, quote, think and plan boldly. Think and plan boldly. And then in 1963, in his message to Congress, he outlined a plan that was very bold. And in fact, the structure of the services today is really based on what he and the administration did back then. And so when he signed legislation, two pieces in October of 1963, a few weeks before he passed, he said in part, quote, it was said at an earlier age that the mind of a man is a far country which can neither be approached nor explored. Again, using the words of the time, the mentally ill and the mentally retarded need no longer be aliens to our affections and beyond the help of our community, unquote. So I congratulate all of you for being here and for the creative ideas. I encourage you to think and act boldly. Thank you very much.
Stephen, thank you. I just want you to know, if you see me using my phone, I'm not being rude. I'm actually tweeting this event, live tweeting it so that we can get it trending, working with the folks in the back. Just want to make sure that you don't think I'm rude. All right, the Northeast ARC is a member of the larger organization. There are more than 700 ARCs in the country, all independent nonprofits that come together to support legislation and policies on the state and national level. Today, we are very fortunate to have Peter Burns, the CEO of ARC of the United States. We'd like Peter to come up and talk briefly.
Thanks, Phil, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here with you again this year to participate in the ARC Tank competition. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the national staff of the ARC of the United States, I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for coming today, and really wish good luck to the finalists you'll be hearing from soon. I'd also like to commend all the applicants that didn't make the final cut but are in the holding tank and whose innovative proposals are described in your program book. They should be recognized for the innovative ideas that they brought to the table. And if we ever needed innovative ideas, the time is now. We're living in what is actually a very challenging time for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. We've spent pretty much the last 2 years fighting to prevent the dismantling of the entire system of programs and services and supports for people with disabilities and their families that we built together over the prior 70-year history of the ARC. We're seeing government funding for intellectual and developmental disability services, which grew robustly for decades, now hit a plateau and begin to decline. We have 75 to 80% of individuals and families that are in need of services who are not receiving any government-funded help and are instead fending for themselves. We see 80% of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are not employed, even as the rate of unemployment in our country is at a 45-year low. And as demand for services is on the rise, we're in the midst of an ongoing workforce crisis as agencies struggle to recruit and retain direct support workers. The circumstances remind me of a quote that is sometimes erroneously attributed to the automotive executive Lee Iacocca, but it actually originated with the anthropologist Margaret Mead. She wrote, and I quote, "We are continuously faced with a series of great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as unsolvable problems." So now we get to hear about some of the solutions and the opportunities. Let the competition begin.
Peter, thank you. Next, I'd like to welcome up to the podium Joanne Simons, President and CEO of Northeast ARC.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you all for coming to the ARC Tank 2.0. The ARC Tank is made possible by a generous donation from Stephen Rosenthal, whose $1 million gift established the Changing Lives Fund, which allowed us to conduct the ARC Tank. How appropriate that it is happening today on Giving Tuesday. I want to thank Steve and his wife Joan for joining us today and for their ongoing support. The Northeast ARC changes lives every day, every minute of every day, 24 hours a day, in over 190 communities in Massachusetts, through 1,300 committed staff, and we in service to over 10,000 children, adults, and families. Many of you know about my personal journey to this podium. That journey started when our son was born almost 40 years ago with Down syndrome. At that point, many of the services and supports that Jonathan needed to thrive were not available. As his mother, I had to learn to become a fierce advocate and disruptor to create the opportunities for him. I had to fight for him to go to daycare, Little League, overnight camp, to college, for his learner's permit. I made it my life's work to ensure that no family would feel the loneliness and isolation we felt, and that no individual would be limited by the rules of society. And this past weekend, I'm happy to tell you, he attended his 20th high school reunion at Swampscott High School. Through my journey, we built relationships. We built allies. My voice was stronger because of these partnerships. We challenged the systems in place. I pounded on doors until it felt like my knuckles were bleeding. Our partners and I created new systems, new pathways, and better lives for all people with disabilities and for those who care and love for them. 16 years ago, I met Steve Rosenthal. Steve had an interest in disabilities. Steve had an interest in philanthropy. Steve also valued developing strong relationships. 2 years ago, Steve turned to the Northeast Arc with a challenge. He believes that philanthropy can be used beyond traditional check writing to ignite change and positively disrupt systems. Our challenge in this partnership was to demonstrate how to maximize impact and continue to create change. The Northeast Arc has a board of directors led by Darcy Immerman that sees our role as to challenge the status quo. We chose, together with Steve, to share this donation rather than to keep it for ourselves. The Changing Lives Fund allows us to help bring great ideas to the next level, quickly and without the restrictions of traditional grant making. Our hope is that others will see the value of this type of philanthropy and support the Changing Lives Fund so we can continue to promote positive disruption. Our experience in hosting last year's Arc Tank demonstrated big and bold ideas exist, that people want to change the status quo, that people want to change and support these changes. Last year, 3 ideas were funded by the Changing Lives Fund at the Arc Tank. Many more received additional supports as a result of the competition. This year's contest saw another 100 applications come in from around the world. Remarkably, nearly every application submitted was by non-traditional partners, nonprofits partnering with for-profit businesses, educational institutions partnering with outside funders, and competitors partnering with each other. Developing the list of 7 finalists was a result of our partners reviewing the applications and making some really tough choices. This afternoon, 7 more partners, our panel of experts, will decide the outcome of the Arc Tank. Today, we will be changing lives through positive disruption, and I'm thrilled that each and every one of you are here to celebrate. Thank you.
Joanne, thank you. The rules of the contest, we'll get it settled right now. Simple. Think big, think bold, and be creative. As Joanne noted, more than 100 applicants were submitted worldwide, 7 selected to go forward. In your program books, you will find a full-page description on each of the proposals being presented here this morning. You will also find what we call the holding tank. The holding tank is made up of other high-ranking applications that were submitted. There's a brief description and contact information for applications in the holding tank. While we do welcome sharks in the audience to reach out to applicants whose ideas speak to them, we do want to remind applicants that this is a non-solicitation event, so please respect today's format. This afternoon's program will be fast-paced. Each applicant will have 5 minutes to present their idea to our panel of experts, and then the panel will have an opportunity to ask questions. Everybody ready to get started? Excellent. So, let's meet our panel. Matthew Millett is employed by the Department of Youth Services as a security officer. Matthew serves on the board of Special Olympics Massachusetts and is a competitive athlete. He is currently training for the 2019 World Summer Games in Abu Dhabi. Ralph James recently retired from Harvard Business School and currently spends his time on philanthropic ventures and volunteer roles with organizations like Harvard Graduate School of Education. Sorry, I know these are going to be great. I just wanted to see what they look like. Radcliffe Institute of Advanced Studies, the Harvard Divinity School, the Joslin Diabetes Center, and the International Quilt Museum. Ralph and his family have recently become more involved in the Northeast Arc after being introduced to the Peabody Black Box. Up next, Marylou Sudders. is the Secretary of Massachusetts Executive Office of Health and Human Services, the largest executive agency in the entire Commonwealth. Marylou is a trained social worker, has served as the Massachusetts Commissioner on Mental Health, and has been a private nonprofit executive and college professor. Quincy Miller is the President and Vice Chair of Eastern Bank. And sir, I'm going to be honest with you, some of these can be really bad, but they're all really good. Eastern Bank, and serves on the Board of Directors for the Boys and Girls Club of Boston, the Greater Boston Food Bank, Bottom Line, the Alliance for Business Leadership, Greater Boston YMCA Board of Overseers. He is also on the Board Emeritus of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts and is the C-suite member of the partnership. Matthew Kennedy is the grandnephew of President Kennedy, senior advisor of Laurel Strategies, and the founder of Kennedy Merchant Partners. Matt has served in senior roles in the Obama administration. Matt has also worked closely with the Overseas Private Investment Corporation to develop innovative public-private partnerships, enabling small businesses to learn about overseas markets and begin exporting through them. He also serves on the board of the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights and the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library. Shirley Leong is the interim editorial page editor of the Boston Globe. Shirley also is a Globe columnist, former business editor. This year, Boston Magazine named her on the list of the 100 most influential people in all of Boston. Shirley's also a contributor to WGBH and NECN, sister station of NBC 10 Boston. Shirley is a proud parent of 2 sons, both on the autism spectrum. This past year, Shirley and one of her sons participated in the Northeast Arcs Gala and Fashion Show. Helping our panel of experts deliberate today is David Chang. Do we have one for David Chang? Oh, no. I was so looking to see yours, too. All right. David Chang. David is an entrepreneur. Would you say you're on? Sorry to offend. David is an entrepreneur and active angel investor with product marketing and software development experience at ventures-backed startups. David is currently an entrepreneur in residence at Harvard Business School and director of the Babson Summer Venture Program. David is recognized as a leader in the entrepreneurial community, and we are very lucky to have him help moderate the presentations and guide our panel of experts today. David.
Thanks very much, Phil. To bring us home, number 7, let's bring up Ian Miller, who's the Director of Publications at Interactive Media Institute, an international nonprofit committed to furthering the application of advanced technology in patient care. IMI is actively working with world leaders who are experts in utilizing virtual reality, multimedia, computer-generated avatars, personal robots, and other technologies to treat people with both developmental and physical disabilities. Ian is currently developing virtual reality-enhanced functional communication for children on the autism spectrum.
Good afternoon. When I was a child, I was the subject of video recordings for my mom's speech-language therapy practice. Now, she would use this video modeling technique to help children with autism learn functional communication and social interaction strategies. Today, as a representative of Interactive Media Institute, I'm introducing the latest iteration of video modeling using virtual reality. Currently, autism services are hindered by 2 major obstacles. The first is access. Since 2000, the number of diagnoses has risen 150%. Now, the number of service providers hasn't kept pace with this rapid increase, creating a shortage of qualified service providers and a barrier to care for individuals on the autism spectrum. The second obstacle is limited skill transference, or the ability of individuals to generalize the skills that they're learning in classrooms or clinical settings to real-world settings. And this generalization is difficult largely because interventions aren't delivered in their natural context, either for monetary, safety, or other logistical reasons. Now, we at IMI see virtual reality as a very well-suited technology to address these shortfalls. First, as an increasingly mobile tool, VR can facilitate realistic and effective therapies from the comfort of your own home, the convenience of your own office, or any other context that you desire at an accessible price. You can try it for yourself with just a $10 Google Cardboard device and your smartphone. Second, for 2 decades, virtual reality has been the premier training tool across a variety of populations. Research validates it as a more effective tool than traditional training methods, including in autistic populations. So, virtual reality is a path-breaking technology that can enhance the efficacy of interventions and transform the landscape of autism service delivery, making it mobile, accessible, and usable by anyone, anywhere, anytime. In fact, we're demonstrating its effectiveness in a pilot study right now. With $15,000 in support, alongside a partnership with the San Diego International Airport, we're testing an air travel training module. In effect, we're teaching adaptive verbal and nonverbal communication strategies to children, just as traditional speech-language therapy would. But we're substituting the props, the pictures, and even the videos with a more immersive practice environment in virtual reality. As past research suggests, immersive environments like these enhance the ability of individuals to acquire skills and generalize them to the real world. For example, Johnny, one of the very first participants of our pilot study, had never been through an airport in anything but a stroller. On top of that, he's hypersensitive to the many sights and sounds that an airport offers, making air travel a difficult task for he and his family. But using a simulation similar to the one on the screen behind me, we've been able to practice the air travel process with Johnny, teaching him skills like checking in his luggage, going through security, and boarding an airplane. When we took he and his family to the airport to put this training to the test, Johnny successfully communicated his needs and navigated the process without interruption. Now today, in light of the success of this preliminary exercise, Interactive Media Institute is requesting $90,000 to create, test, and disseminate 6 virtual reality functional communication activities, or VRFCA. As mobile tools, these activities will improve access to interventions that teach functional communication strategies. Additionally, this advanced training technology will enhance the generalization of daily skills and help individuals become full participants in their communities. Now, the requested support from the Northeast ARC will pay for research and clinical staff, software engineers, graphic designers, and web designers to disseminate 6 contexts, such as playgrounds, public transportation, our airport, and other environments. And each of these modules will be made available for download online. And they'll be accompanied by both clinical training videos that instruct therapists on implementing VR-FCA protocols in the clinic, as well as structured training videos that help family members and caregivers use VR-FCA on demand at home. Once online, these modules are fully sustainable. Now, to kickstart adoption, research and clinical staff will hold 2 in-person training seminars for clinicians and families to teach them how to use this tool either in the clinic or at home. In all, the funds requested from Northeast ARC will help create, test, and disseminate important training environments that can improve the efficacy and access to essential communication interventions. 16 years ago, I helped create innovative tools that paved a new direction in autism intervention. In that same light today, I hope you'll join Interactive Media Institute in our effort to disrupt autism service delivery and to improve children's abilities to make important decisions on how they live, learn, socialize, and play by applying our virtual reality functional communication activities.
Questions?
Can you say something about how the subscription fee works? So I need to pay $9.99 a month, or?
No, so what we're planning on doing is making all of these available for download on an app store online. What we envision is that these are $2.99. You buy it, you download it on your phone, and you have it. And that's it.
Other questions? You're going to try on the devices?
So that's the Google Cardboard device, what we've used in our preliminary exercises so far. It's kind of the lowest tech device. You put your phone in there. It's only $7 though, so it's very accessible for a lot of families to use at home, clinicians and therapy centers to purchase 5 or 10 of these. It's not a big investment for them.
So just looking at the total project, it shows pending funds 76,000, and I'm assuming the 90,000 from Northeast ARC. So and then there's obviously about 80,000 of in-kind. So is the other difference has already been raised, or committed funds?
It's currently pending still, but those funds would help facilitate further development of the program. What we're asking from Northeast Arc today is $90,000 for 6 modules, and to put them up, create them, test them, and put them online. Other funds would enhance the program, create more modules, and continue the research of using virtual reality in autistic populations, IDD populations, and in children.
Okay, so this breakdown here of the other foundations that you're targeting, et cetera, you don't need that funding to deliver these
Correct.
ones, okay?
In the virtual reality tray, I wish the airport was that empty all the time. Say my brother had autism. I go with him. Is that included in the virtual reality, or is that how you include that in virtual reality?
I didn't hear the first.
In the virtual reality, you're by yourself, but most people have brother or a parent. How does that include in the virtual reality? Is there a way to include that? Or?
That's a good question. So what we do right now in our clinical systems, when we're using it, when we're testing it in the clinic, we're actually watching the simulation on an iPad or a computer, and so that we can tell what the child is looking at in the virtual reality. Currently, there's no way for me to go join them in virtual reality, but technology is making great strides to help facilitate that.
Tell us a little bit more about the United Airlines. Is it a pilot program or?
Yeah, so it's actually not through United Airlines. I know that the ARC of Seattle, I think, does a Wings for Autism, where they take kids to the airport and they practice this air travel process. And our idea kind of stemmed from seeing news articles about that, saying how could we make that more accessible? So what we've done is we've partnered with San Diego Airport to, at first we test the systems in a clinic. We're partnered with a speech and language therapy clinic in San Diego right now. And what we've done is over 4 weeks, we've met with children once a week and run them through this simulation with a script and taught them kind of communication skills, how to go through check-in, luggage, security, all of that. And then with our partnership with the San Diego Airport, we were actually able to take them to the airport and walk them through the entire air travel process as kind of a simulation. So that was the extent of our.
How many people ended up using, or kids going through this, the general public using it, I guess?
So to date, our pilot study was small and kind of in preparation for this. We had 5 kids. We ended up bringing families that I think it was about 20 people total that we were able to bring through the entire process. The therapy centers that we're partnering with, they provide services for over 300 children annually. So there's great potential to enhance our ability to reach out to more families. And we're also actively engaging with other therapy centers throughout San Diego to deliver this intervention.
Out of 5 families, have they wanted to play a rail play?
That's a good question. A lot of the families, it was 4 families had been on an airplane before. Not one single child had ever walked through the airport by themselves. They're all fairly young, about 5 or 6 years old. And then the last child had never been through an airport because parents were too afraid that they may have a behavioral outbreak, something like that. So what was great really was in the pilot study, when we took all 5 kids to the airport, all 5 of them walked through the entire process, checked in their luggage, put their backpack on the security belt, got their backpack on, put their shoes back on, and we walked all to the gate and to the airplane. And I think that's a great success story for a lot of families. They were very thankful for our training and just the opportunity to go practice in the real world.
Last quick fire question.
How much of this training has to be done in conjunction with sort of another provider versus just, hey, I download this on the app and I don't need anyone else to do this?
Our mission, our objective is to make these both usable in the clinic with a clinician teaching them functional communication, but also just using these simulations as kind of a video model for kids. If they're at home with their parents and they want to plug into the headset for 5 minutes and practice a scenario or expose them to a new scenario, that's easy to do, and it doesn't require any clinical implementation or interaction. Along with our structured training videos that they can download online, that really would help them implement it at home.
So 15 seconds. Is there other examples? So we talked about the airplane, going to the airport. Do you have a target for the other 5 modules?
Yes, we have, like I said, we want to develop a playground for social interaction. We have public transportation already built. public safety already built. And then we would like to keep growing with grocery stores, maybe places to eat, dinner places, things like that. But really any kind of social context that you could imagine, we would love to end up adapting a virtual reality environment for it and disseminating it.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
So those were 7 fantastic presentations, and just for someone that sees entrepreneurs every single day, people that work on this full-time have difficulty standing up in front of a crowd this big and pitching an idea. And keep in mind that almost everyone we saw here has a day job that is not this, and so it's a whole extra level to present an idea, get in front of a team, the training that they took just to do that in a short period of time. A lot of credit goes to Margaret Ake. I don't know if where's Margaret here? She's in the back. So thank you for getting them in such awesome shape to present their ideas. So I am going to leave with the judges now to do a little bit of deliberation, but I'm going to turn it back to Phil because your job is not done yet. So, Phil.
That's right. So while the experts head off to figure out who gets what kind of money, you all have a job to do as well. And if you look behind your name tag, you'll find one of these. And what we'd like you to do as our cabinet of positive disruptors is head out to the lobby. There will be a fishbowl that represents one of all of the 7 presentations you saw today. This is the fan favorite tag, so just drop it in the fishbowl that corresponds to the presentation that you like the best as your fan favorite, and they get an extra gift at the end of it. So we have 25 minutes now while the panel deliberates. You can all head out into the lobby. There are some appetizers, and please do your fan favorite. Welcome back in, everybody. I'll give you a few more seconds to take your seats. Actually, how about this? While you're taking your seats, I'm told we have a few more pictures to put up on the screen. If you don't think that's going to be my profile picture on every single media platform. All right, but that's not just that. Margaret? That's not Margaret. Wow, if that's Margaret. Yes, that's Peter, so we skipped Margaret. We're going to get back to Margaret. Dave, there, okay, there you go. There's Margaret. David? Oh, I like that. These are really amazing, right? Stephen Rothstein. And finally?
Very nice.
What, no? No? What? I think it shaves a couple of years. I think it's awesome. All right, as we were just talking about. I can get the filter, but we need, okay. All right, last but certainly not least, with an award of $90,000, Virtual Reality Functional Communication Activities by Interactive Media Institute. And Quincy.
So as I think all the presentations were focused on, 3 things: creating a extremely and impactful positive disruption, maximizing the impact, and creating change. And we really felt as a group of judges that the idea of being able to use a virtual reality technology and literally be able to touch millions of people if delivered effectively was something that was really inspiring and worth a significant investment. I think the couple pieces of advice that we had as we thought about this was there's certain pieces that we felt were important to be considered, such as to really be able to deliver it outside of a facility setting like your pilot was. You're really going to need in that app some sort of digital training for the parents or the guardians on how to most effectively use this technology. So I thought that was very important. And there was also a great idea around for the user putting in some type of gamification that makes it engaging for them to want to continue to use it, because the thought is just going through the airport once in virtual reality probably isn't enough to be able to create that sense of comfort when they get there in person. So how do you create some way that they could advance, make it fun and interesting to get better at it each time, were two good pieces of advice that the judges had. But congratulations on an outstanding idea.
All right, so just quickly, thank you all so much for coming. I hope you've all enjoyed the afternoon as much as we have. Am I missing something? Yes, of course. Yeah, so all the judges, first of all, thank all the judges this afternoon. Not an easy thing to have to dole out all that money. All the judges, all the winners, please stay afterwards so we can take some more pictures. And make sure you follow Northeast ARC on Facebook and Twitter. Coming soon, announcements on 2 new exciting opportunities for people with disabilities who need capital to begin their own business ventures through micro-lending and micro-granting. Also, the 2019 ARC Tank Challenge will be announced very shortly. So thank you all for coming to ARC Tank 2.0. We all look forward to 3.0. Thank you for making it possible.